Bethesda Game Studios is one of the most revered and well-known brands in gaming. We recognize them for expanding the open-world formula, creating a sort of universe through their flagship IP, The Elder Scrolls, a long-standing series that saw its roots originate in 3D dungeon crawling and blossom into full-blown transcontinental exploration. But as with every day, the sun must set. Over the past decade, Bethesda has been embroiled in divisive releases that have fractured the fan base, little by little. Some citing many issues with the creation engine, and others just saying the games are shit. And of course, most should recognize their latest failure, Starfield. I don't want to talk too much about Starfield though, I'd rather not dwell on mistakes, and honestly, it's just not worth the time. I just want to talk about Bethesda and what I miss from their games. My first experience with a Bethesda game was Fallout 3. I was 11, a 6th grader, and was visiting a friend's house. We'll call him Q. His father was an avid nerd. Dude had figurines and a display case for them. The entire basement was pretty much a den, equipped with lazy boy chairs, a mini fridge stocked with soda, and a counter for drinks. I'd never seen anything like it before. But the main attraction was the 62-inch flat screen that served as the crown jewel to this room. It was equipped with a surround sound stereo system, and if you know anything about Fallout 3, the first thing that's gonna hook you is when some old-timey jazz starts playing. Admittedly, I'm a wuss. Horror games scare me, especially when they don't let me fight back, and while Fallout isn't a horror game, back then these graphics felt like real life. Q handed me the controller. He had left me in a subway tunnel with a shish kebab, this sword made out of a lawnmower blade that emitted fire. It was sick, but shortly after walking into the next corridor, I was jumped by like 3 ghouls and immediately felt sick to my stomach. I gave the controller right back and just continued to watch him play. Then and there, I decided I didn't like this game. It was too much for me. The darkened hallways were a little too inhospitable for my taste. We didn't play it long though. Q decided to again flex his dad's collection and put on another Bethesda game, Oblivion. Again, he passed me the controller, this time dumping me in a field with skeletons at the top of a hill. All I remember is my eyes went red. These rolling hills, the piercing light from this blue sky, welcoming me as if I were brought here to exact righteous revenge. It was under this sun that I felt invincible. I gunned up a big old pile of them bones and destroyed them, watching their bodies collapse to the ground piece by piece, a sword in my hand and a shield in the other. This enchanted me. Now, with a charge in me, I'd been back home and begged my mom to take me to GameStop. I think my dad took me instead, but we went to the store and shockingly they didn't have Oblivion. But what they did have was Fallout 3 on discount. Despite it scaring me, I wanted something. Reluctantly, I popped it into my Xbox and started playing. The intro shocked me because, again, I'd only seen gameplay from the subway, and my experience with video games up to this point was stuff like Kingdom Hearts, Hot Wheels, and Pokemon. Here I was, playing as a baby, then falling asleep, waking up at 10, and again falling asleep to wake up at 16. This sequence for a kid was so underrated. Like, how many times did we wish we'd wake up one day out of our childhood, hoping that we could skip school and do our own thing, and here it was in this game. As a kid, I guess I never grasped it, but finally that last rest where we move on from 16 into adulthood, the sirens blaring, giant cockroaches running rampant, guns firing, people dying, screaming and blaming you. Immediately from that slumber, we woke up to the world and were promptly pushed into it. That moment of fresh air smashing against your face as blinding light filled the screen and adjusted to reveal this. Bethesda used to care. That's what I miss. The past decade, they've only fed their loyal fans with marketing speak about stupid bullshit that doesn't matter, like
16 times the detail.
As if it's noticeable. The big world reveals becoming hollow husks of what they used to be, standing in stark contrast to these presentations of resounding passion, determination, and love. Worlds like this can't simply be rendered and designed. They're conceptualized by human hands, parsed over by human eyes, and traveled by human feet. What's been missing in these games since Skyrim has been that level of care towards even just one aspect of their games. Things that just work or new features are just that. What I want to see is a game they're proud of. You don't have to defend work you're proud of. You carry pride with your chest. You carry pride in the way you walk, the way you talk. And needing to pitch expansive bullshit like 1,000 planets only calls to question your direction. No one asked for that shit. No one wanted it, because 1,000 is pointless. When I walked in just one country, one city, for thousands of hours before, All this jargon about using procedural generation and AI to fill out their games only further proves they don't care anymore. Games aren't about having the most content jammed into them, because no matter what you're playing, repeating the same task over and over again removes the magic of a world, and it becomes more like a job. I also just couldn't fathom, for a game that's set so deep into the future, how is there no radio? Couldn't be bothered, I guess. For all the crap Death Stranding received as being called a walking simulator, at least it tried to keep you entertained through game-exclusive music, thrilling cinematics, and a really neat physics system that did more to show the relation between exploring the unknown than this game ever could. It's this lack of inspiration that has weighed so heavily on Bethesda's back. How did they lose their way? How do we go from this lush, populated expanse to dead, repeating planets that offer nothing substantial besides resource gathering? Why is there no satisfaction in exploring these worlds? How could space feel so boring? Bethesda has employed the same tactics for over a decade. The same old combat, the same old quests, and virtually the same plot. We are the chosen ones, spanning from prisoner turned to Jesus, from orphan to wasteland Jesus, or miner to space Jesus. But for two of the three variable Jesuses, one factor remained true: our journey. The steps we've taken and the steps we've yet to take, right before our eyes, that's what pushed us further. Exploring Skyrim isn't always the most inventive, colorful, or interesting experience ever, but the moments where it was felt amazing. We'd walk for hours on end, spot something mildly interesting, and explore it. No menu to flip through, no buttons to press, still a loading screen, but one that was earned, not forced. I'll always remember this: a Dwemer ruin. It wasn't the first time I'd been in one, the old halls that stood the test of time. These halls, breathing, supported by the glistening machinery that outlined this mausoleum of past life, an accomplishment that succeeds everything we'd seen on the surface. Adventure steeped in mystery, the unknowability of what's around the corner, the various trapdoors and pumping pistons building the ambiance. Was it fear or intrigue? The quest marker egged me on, as it always did. There was at least comfort in knowing there was an end. Before, I'd only dabbled in these halls, completing certain objectives and dipping out as soon as I could. If there was nothing here for me to chase, I'd felt it safer to escape. But this time, the marker was deep, farther than ever before. I chased it, through mechanized spiders, rolling sentries, and stalwart defenders wielding hammer and axe, reaching door after door, the marker pushing me further, until these bone obelisks began to show. Small showings of civilization, maybe, or something else, lurking in the darkness, in depths that weren't meant to be traveled. A certain hostility boiled in the air, not one of imminent danger, one of not belonging, as if cutting a portal into a foreign world. In these halls, turning slowly to caves, I was entrenched in somewhere that wasn't Skyrim, that wasn't connected to the same plains, caves, and mountains I'd already walked. Something hidden away from the people above, blocked off by these contraptions that I had come to learn weren't terrorizing adventurers, but preventing invasion from below. As I walked deeper, between the hollow puffs of the soundtrack was a frenzy of stepping feet and a bug-like chittering. The Falmer, one of the nastiest, most gut-wrenching monster designs to ever grace gaming, confronting us with a hobbled gallop and en masse. Crowded together in huts, these beings lived here. But what gnawed in the back of our minds was what was here to them. The end of this ruin? The marker continued, onward through blackened chasms where light never peaked. Before us, as our steps shortened, we collectively took our fingers off the sprint button to take it all in, to finally see just how deep this world went. Blackreach. To me, this is what made Skyrim. No. This is what made Bethesda great. What made them special. I never gave a f*** about the story. Alduin was nothing but another dragon to me. What I loved, what I cherish, what I'll never forget from their games was my journey. The weight of my steps, all this time treading above ground, meeting new characters, getting new loot, improving my skills, becoming stronger, yet below me, this whole time, was another world. Unknown to me, the game never cared if I'd found it, because in their hearts, I'm sure, they knew I'd look. A certain trust, a certain confidence, a certain energy emitted from this world that didn't beg you to seek journeys, to chase quests, to gain levels. It was all a compliment to what this world stood for.
So we're interested in all the little details, like this plant here, the medium details of these logs and trees, and all the way up to distant mountains. And if you've played our previous stuff, you know that mountain is not just a backdrop. You can walk all the way to the top of that mountain. And it's a huge world. Like our previous games, you can create any kind of character you want and then go do what you want.
If you wanted to see it, then you'd go see it. Made as an experience, this game has stood the test of time, not because of Bethesda's name, but because we all know passion when we see it. When Jeremy Soule wrote the composition for Piece of Akatosh, he had survived a car crash and felt inspired by what he saw when he'd been near death. When Hironobu Sakaguchi wrote the plot for Final Fantasy VII, he wanted to use it as a device to cope with his mother's passing. When Hideo Kojima began developing games, he'd already had a sense of storytelling in mind, one to embroil the user in the destiny of a story, a direction. People create with cause, with purpose, and when you leave creation to things driven by algorithms, it loses its humanity.
12, whatever, and the other kids in the block would say, you know, I'm going to play quarterback for the Cowboys, and I'd be like, I'm going to make video games, and everyone's going to play them. Like, you dork. Go back to the chess club. Who's laughing now? Yes, I was in the chess club.
Procedural generation should be the base, at most, sparing more time to the designers to flesh out real points of interest that add charm to planets. Because the first consideration for any project should be, is it fun? Sure, in reality, most planets are dead and barren, but to treat them as if their only points of interest are shallow caves and bandit hideouts is nonsense, and the developers should have understood that. In my heart, they would have, too, if they'd actually playtest. More often than not, it doesn't feel like modern games have had any of their creators actually run through it themselves. Not once, except for a select few, and it's those select few that stick out. I'd find it unfathomable that no one at FromSoft didn't play Elden Ring. The reveal of the open world at the first step was too pretty, and too crammed with information that it's just by sheer luck. The reveal of Lernia was framed by the Overlook so well it looks like a painting, and something synonymous with finding Blackreach is that first elevator that likewise plunged us into darkness. Think of any Rockstar cinematic and tell me, how many times do you think someone revised and watched over that same cinematic before it ever fell into your hands? What I felt when I first touched the artifact in Starfield was nothing. It felt like just an imitation, a sad attempt to pluck at my attention without understanding what the beacon's purpose was in Mass Effect. When I first exited the mining station and was revealed space, all I'd seen was gray. A dead landscape that didn't inspire exploration, one that instead felt isolated. I pressed on. The first 30 minutes didn't have to impress me, because I remembered Blackreach. I remembered Oasis. I remembered Telarum. I read comments, people saying, oh, the game gets better, just keep trying. Witcher 3 took me 12 hours. Elden Ring took me 8. I'm no stranger to a slow burn. I kept trying. I pushed myself and finally got my first power, befuddled by this dumbass minigame, and more uninspiring dialogue that can be simplified to, thanks for getting that, go here now and come back. 10 hours is all I managed, and you may notice, none of this Starfield footage is my own, because I didn't even record. I have a policy to save space, because, well, I'm poor, and not monetized, so a motherfucker has to be picky. If the game can't show me something dynamic in the first 2 hours, then OBS is staying closed. Because of this, searching for footage led me to OST playlists, extended versions of songs, all that jazz, and while scrolling, I fell upon an hour-long version of Harvest Moon from Oblivion, where a commenter said this: when did we start confusing experience with consumption? It's an important question to ask. Most people don't play games to waste time. They play them to detach and separate themselves from the things that happen beyond the screen. We seek to immerse ourselves in experiences that put us somewhere brimming with new possibilities. While Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, and Fallout 3 aren't the best games ever, or without their multitude of flaws, they offer exactly that. An experience. There is nothing in this world that's more priceless than experience, than memories. Those moments where we can look back, see a particular trigger, and immediately feel like we just warped through time, and we're back to elementary school Christmas parties, Sunday morning Dragon Ball Z reruns, or the very first time we saw our childhood game's loading screen and heard whatever music would welcome us into this new world. I don't think Bethesda has lost their magic. Anyone is capable of a comeback. Dominique Wilkins pulled off a nearly 30-point per game season after tearing his Achilles at the age of 32. Crazier shit has happened. All it takes is care. A figurative soul transcribed into the DNA of this game. It's not much to ask. We see it in so many forms: delicious food, handmade clothing, written letters, pinned up drawings, origami, passed on seashells, rocks. It's so easy to cherish something. Whether it be the execs ruining shit or maybe people just working to make ends meet, I don't blame them. Not everyone was on board with this idea. Not everyone wanted to make this project crack. That much is evident. With any task, a team is necessary. Dedicated individuals banded together to put something out. It all begins with a message, a belief, one that has since left Bethesda Game Studios, and honestly, many other developers and many other brands in general. This world, day by day, has become soulless. What do we even live for anymore? Money? Is that what it is? We're directionless, and I am as well. I'm not better than anyone else. I'm still searching. My belief is still developing. What I know best is writing and video games, I guess. And making videos has become an outlet for me to express that. The next time you play a game or watch a movie, whatever, consider this. Did you simply consume media, watching it as it came and went, or did you experience something new? A new memory to forever hold dearly. Unfortunately for you and I, experiences are purely relative. That's why this is my problem with Bethesda, not yours. I'm not trying to change your mind, just clearing mine. This is my third attempt at writing a script that encapsulates what I felt was missing from playing Starfield. Maybe if I were younger, or if I'd never heard of Bethesda before, I'd appreciate Starfield more, but I think I'd still probably rather play Mass Effect. Thanks for watching. Make sure to check the comments for a question, and consider leaving a like and subscribing if you had fun dreaming with me. We're 130 subscribers away from being monetized, and all the insufferable ads you may be viewing will actually benefit the channel. I've got tons of past gaming experiences to still share with you, also new ones as long as I live and breathe. After this comes out, I'll hopefully have made some forward progress on a manga video I'm working on called The Bonds of Alchemy. I think it's easy to guess the subject. I hope you're looking forward to it, and I'll see you next time. Have a good day, afternoon, or night. Bye-bye.